There is a silent song humming through the cosmos, a vibration so pure, so ancient, that it existed long before the first breath of time. And this song, this eternal current, is what responds to the frequency you emit. You are not separate from it. You are not apart from the universe. You are of it. You are made of it. Your essence is energy. And that energy carries a frequency, one that speaks, even when your mouth is closed, even when your thoughts are chaotic, even when your heart is breaking. And the universe listens not to your words, but to your vibration. You may have been taught that the world is happening to you, but the deeper truth, the one whispered to the soul when it is still, is that life is happening through you. It mirrors you, reflects you, echoes back to you, not your circumstances, but your consciousness. Not your struggle, but your state. You are not a powerless observer floating in a chaotic sea. You are a powerful creator immersed in a field that responds to what you are being. And what you are being is everything. Not what you're doing, not what you're hoping, but what you are. There is a field of energy around you that is constantly broadcasting a signal. That signal is your dominant emotion. It is your core belief. It is the story you keep silently telling yourself. And the universe, in all its infinite wisdom and non-judgmental compassion, simply aligns with it. It doesn't judge your frequency. It doesn't decide whether you're worthy or not. It simply responds. If you are living in fear, it will meet you with more reasons to be afraid. If you are living in love, it will offer you more to love. If you are rooted in scarcity, life will echo back lack. If you are grounded in gratitude, life will mirror abundance. This is not punishment or reward. This is resonance. The universe is not a parent with favorites, nor is it a system of reward points for good behavior. It is vibration, and vibration cannot be tricked. You cannot fake alignment. You cannot affirm over a wound that hasn't been healed. You cannot chant joy from a soul that has not yet made peace. Because the universe doesn't hear your words. It feels your signal. So the real journey, the sacred work, is not in begging the universe for better, but in becoming better aligned with who you truly are beneath the noise. And who you truly are is light, is love, is divine presence in a temporary form. You don't need to get anything from life. You only need to become what life responds to. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Let us stop for a moment and ask the real question. What signal am I sending out into the field right now? Is it the frequency of resentment, of comparison, of fear, self-doubt, and trying to be enough? Or is it the quiet, anchored presence of someone who remembers even for a moment that they are not this mind, this emotion, this body, this history, but the one witnessing it all? Because that shift from identification with the ego to identification with the soul is the shift that changes everything. You see, the ego wants to manipulate the universe. It says, if I do this, then I should get that. It bargains, it pleads, it performs, it pretends. But the soul does not bargain. The soul remembers. The soul radiates. The soul does not need to force life into shape. It simply returns to its true frequency, and life takes form around it. This is the art of surrender. Not giving up, but tuning in. Not efforting, but aligning. Not striving, but allowing. The rose does not open by force. It opens by being in harmony with the season. So must you. There is nothing more magnetic than a being who has returned to their natural frequency. They do not beg, they do not chase, they do not prove. They simply become the embodiment of what they once thought they needed to seek. And then life bends around them effortlessly, like gravity answering its source. The universe responds not to your need, but to your being. Not to your pain, but to your peace. Not to your desire, but to your wholeness. And you are already whole. But somewhere along the way, you believed otherwise. Somewhere, you inherited the idea that you must strive, must hustle, must become more as though the infinite could be measured in worth. And in doing so, you moved from presence to pretense, from frequency to friction, from flow to force. But your soul remembers the truth. It remembers what it feels like to rest in the now, to be in the moment without agenda, to breathe without resistance, to love without condition, to trust without knowing. And when you return to this place, not in theory, but in being, everything changes. Because the universe cannot help but meet you where you are. And where you are vibrationally is always creating what comes next. Let this not frighten you. Let it free you. Because it means you are not at the mercy of fate or karma or broken history. You are not the victim of some random algorithm in the sky. You are the author of resonance, the chooser of frequency, the mirror to which all things are drawn. So if you want more love, be the love that no longer waits. If you want more abundance, embody the gratitude that already sees it everywhere. If you want peace, be still and know you are not the storm. You are the sky it moves through. When your frequency rises, your life cannot stay the same. Not because you manipulated the external, but because you transfigured the internal. You alchemized your energy. You didn't chase, you tuned. You didn't fight, you surrendered. You didn't shout, you harmonized. And so the entire orchestra of your existence changed keys. You are not meant to push the river. You are meant to remember that you are the river. You are the stream that flows through valleys of experience, over stones of challenge, under bridges of doubt, and still you move forward, naturally, guided not by force, but by the silent pull of your own divine current. When you resist what is, you create dissonance in your frequency. But when you accept what is, you become powerful in your flow. And the universe ever so gently reorients to meet you there in the field of surrender where miracles bloom. Your frequency is your signature. It is not what you say about yourself. It is not the mask you wear or the image you curate. It is the hum beneath your silence. It is the truth that pulses underneath every smile, every thought, every breath. And the universe reads this with perfect accuracy, not to judge, but to align. You are not being punished by your life. You are being tuned by it. Every difficult moment, every closed door, every loss is not a cosmic insult. It is a compassionate response to what no longer matches the higher signal you were born to become. When you learn to listen inward instead of outward, you begin to hear the whispers of frequency before they become the shouts of fate. The soul always speaks before the suffering begins, but most of us wait. We wait for pain to teach us what presence could have shown us in stillness. We wait until our bodies break down before we rest. We wait until we're alone to understand the need for self-love. We wait until we're depleted to realize we were chasing from a frequency of emptiness. But the universe never rushes you. It waits too patiently, lovingly for you to come back to your vibration. And what is your vibration, truly, when all the noise is cleared? It is peace. Not the kind found in a quiet room, but the kind that radiates from a quiet heart. It is joy. Not the temporary high, but the steady flame that burns even in the rain. It is love. Not the transaction of affection, but the unconditional remembrance that you are what you seek. There are no shortcuts to frequency. You cannot meditate your way into joy while secretly resenting the world. You cannot visualize abundance while clinging to fear. The inner world is precise. It does not lie. And that is its beauty. That is its power. Because it means your transformation is not dependent on the external. You can shift your frequency in this moment, not tomorrow, not next year, now. Take a breath. Deep, unforced, honest, and feel for just this breath what it means to be enough without becoming more, to be worthy without proof, to be loved without condition. Now feel what rises. If it's resistance, that's okay. Let it speak. Let it move. For nothing lowers your frequency like the repression of truth, and nothing raises it like the courageous return to self. You do not need to earn your way into alignment. You simply need to remove what no longer belongs. Let go of the guilt that was never yours. Release the shame that came from someone else's pain. Lay down the identity that was built to survive, not to thrive. You are not your mask. You are not your wounds. You are not your past. You are the presence beneath all of it. And presence is the highest frequency of all. When you walk into a room as presence, you don't have to say a word. People feel it. Children sense it. Animals are drawn to it. Nature responds to it. Because you are no longer emitting the static of separation, you are radiating the coherence of truth. You are no longer pretending, you are being. And in being, you become magnetic to everything that matches that vibration. Have you ever wondered why things fall apart when you finally choose yourself? Why relationships shift when you return to inner peace? Why doors close when you start walking in alignment with your soul? It's not because you're being punished. It's because your frequency changed. And what once resonated no longer fits. The old must fall away, not as loss, but as proof of rebirth. Let it go. Let them go. Let what no longer vibrates with your truth be released, not with anger, but with gratitude for showing you what you are not. You don't need to understand everything. You only need to trust that your energy is a compass. And when it is clear, it will guide you not to comfort, but to truth. Not to ease, but to expansion. And expansion often requires the shedding of skins, the unraveling of illusions, the death of who you thought you were. But this is not a tragedy. This is grace in motion. This is the universe saying, you are becoming more you than you have ever been. And so the question becomes, what frequency are you willing to live in now? Because the universe isn't waiting for your perfection. It's responding to your intention. It's not judging your flaws. It's aligning with your vibration. It's not testing your worth. It's reflecting your belief. Every thought you hold, every emotion you feed, every story you rehearse is an energetic instruction to life, not in punishment, in partnership. The field is intelligent, it is alive, and it is listening. When you speak, I am, the universe completes the sentence. I am broken, and it echoes back pain. I am healing, and it brings the teachers. I am whole, and it aligns the world to mirror it. So what are you claiming with your energy today? Not what are you saying? What are you being? If your mind is anxious, but your heart is present, listen to the heart. If your ego is screaming, but your soul is whispering, follow the whisper. For it is in the stillness beneath the noise where your true frequency resides, waiting for you to come home. Come home to the knowing that nothing outside of you is more powerful than what is within you. Come home to the silence that is not empty, but full of knowing, full of clarity, full of God. The mind will say you need to fix your life, rearrange your circumstances, hustle harder, prove something. But the soul knows you do not need to chase alignment. You need only to return to the place where you stop being honest with yourself. And in that return, your frequency begins to rise. It rises not through effort, but through authenticity. It rises not through performance, but through presence. It rises when you stop trying to be what you think the world wants, and start being what your spirit already is. You've been taught to chase vibration with achievement, but the truth is, you raise your vibration by releasing. Not by adding more, but by subtracting what no longer serves. Let go of the beliefs that bind you. Let go of the story that says you are small, unworthy, alone. That story was a survival strategy, not a reflection of your divinity. And the universe has never responded to your wounds. It has only responded to the energy those wounds created. So, if you are ready for life to meet you differently, meet yourself differently first. Speak to yourself with reverence. Think of yourself as divine. Treat your thoughts as seeds. For what you plant in the soil of your mind becomes the forest of your experience. Energy cannot lie. What you believe deep down becomes the blueprint of what the universe returns to you. And belief is not a sentence, it is a frequency. You can say, I am worthy 1,000 times. But if your energy says, I am still seeking proof, the field will respond to the seeking, not the words. So the real work, the sacred path, is to live as if your worth is not in question. Not to pretend, but to remember, to strip away every layer that ever told you otherwise, the beliefs that came from others, the shame that was inherited, the doubt that was absorbed from a world that forgot its own light. These are not yours. They were never yours. You were not here to carry them. You were here to transmute them. You are here to alchemize fear into presence, guilt into grace, and confusion into clarity. And the moment you choose to stand in your truth, the entire frequency of your life shifts. You've seen it. You've felt it. Those moments when you finally let go and suddenly things align. The phone call comes, the door opens, the path clears. Why? Because you didn't force life. You stopped resisting yourself. You let go of what kept you small. And in doing so, you matched the field of miracles that has been waiting for you all along. Miracles are not exceptions. They are reflections of alignment. You don't need to perform to be worthy of one. You need only to become the frequency of one. Become the vibration of love, and love will meet you in forms you never imagined. Become the vibration of peace, and chaos will no longer find a home in you. Become the vibration of wholeness, and nothing outside of you will have the power to break you again. This is not spiritual poetry. This is energetic law. The universe operates on resonance, and you, beloved, are a tuning fork of creation. If you are surrounded by noise, confusion, or lack, look not at the world, but within. Where's the noise in you? What story are you still playing on repeat? What belief are you still breathing life into that no longer aligns with your divine nature? Dare to pause. Dare to go inward. The world will pull you 1,000 different ways, but the soul only pulls one way, home. And home is not a place. Home is a frequency. It's the frequency of God within you. The still, unwavering hum of the infinite that has always been there beneath your pain, beneath your past, beneath your striving. You do not need to build your worth. You need only to uncover it. Strip away the noise. Let go of what isn't true. And feel, even now, what begins to awaken. This is the return. This is the healing. This is the frequency that shifts everything. You don't need the world to change for you to feel different. You need to feel different, and then the world begins to change. This is not a bypassing of reality. It is the deeper reality. For you are not just flesh and bone. You are vibration. You are light in motion, and the universe responds to that. The external is just the echo. The internal is the origin. So tend to your energy with care. Speak to your thoughts like you would a sacred child. Forgive your past with the softness of someone who has remembered the truth. Your energy is your power. Protect it, honor it, align it, and you will begin to experience a life that matches not your history, but your healing. You are not here to repeat cycles. You are here to transmute them. You are not here to beg life for blessings. You are here to radiate so brightly that blessings become inevitable. This is not arrogance. This is remembrance. Remember who you are. Remember what you are. Not the labels, not the name, not the roles or the wounds or the masks, but the presence behind all of it, the field of light that watches without judgment, the stillness that listens beneath the noise. That is you. And when you live from that place, you begin to emit a frequency so pure that the universe cannot help but respond in kind. It must, because you are it, and it is you. You are not meant to control the universe. You are meant to collaborate with it, but collaboration begins with clarity. Not clarity of outcomes, but clarity of energy. The most important question you can ask yourself is not, what should I do, but what am I radiating right now? Because your frequency does not lie. And life in its unending compassion will keep showing you what lives beneath the surface of your own awareness, not to shame you, but to free you. Every relationship that triggers you, every delay that frustrates you, every closed door that confuses you, these are not punishments, they are invitations. Opportunities to pause and ask, what am I being asked to release so that I can rise into a higher alignment? You see, the old self, the wounded self, the story-built self wants resolution through control. It wants to fix, force, and figure it all out. But the true self, the soul, wants resolution through resonance. It knows that the healing of your outer world begins with the coherence of your inner one. So you must begin to see everything not as happening to you, but as arising from you. Not in blame, never in blame, but in sacred responsibility. This is the frequency of a conscious creator. Not one who escapes life, but one who co-creates it with divine awareness. Because the more you attune to your true vibration, the more you become unshakable by what happens around you. Storms may come, but you no longer become them. Loss may arrive, but you no longer identify with lack. Uncertainty may rise, but you no longer abandon yourself to fear. This is frequency mastery. And it does not come from escaping the world. It comes from returning so deeply to the truth of who you are that the world can no longer distort your signal. You become the still point, the unmoved mover, the eye in the center of the storm. And in that stillness, the universe listens. It listens not because you are louder. It listens because you are clearer. It listens because you have dropped the noise, the need, the narrative, and you are simply being what you were always meant to be, a conscious emanation of love. This, beloved, is your natural state. Love is not something you earn. It is what you are when the noise is gone. And when you radiate from that place, the place of nothing to prove, nothing to chase, nothing to fear, the universe opens in ways you could never orchestrate from the mind. Doors swing wide. People arrive like divine appointments. Healing rushes in without effort. And peace becomes your resting place, not a fleeting destination. This is not a fantasy. This is the real world as seen through the frequency of soul. Let go of the belief that the world must change first, that people must apologize, that conditions must improve, that your body, your bank account, your relationships must reach some imagined perfection before you feel whole. No, the secret is this. When you feel whole first, the world begins to rearrange itself around your new vibration. Because frequency is creative. It generates experience. It doesn't wait, it initiates. So take the pressure off trying to get everything right. You don't need to perfect your outer life. You need only to become congruent in your inner world, to live in harmony with what you truly believe, to think thoughts that feel like peace, to feel emotions that echo your truth, to embody the energy of what you wish to experience, and then watch life respond, not in days, in moments, because alignment is not about time, it's about presence. Time is only needed when you're still fighting the frequency of what is. But presence collapses time. It opens portals. It reveals pathways that the mind cannot see. So breathe. Sink into your body, into your now, into this one sacred breath. You are here. And here is the only place miracles can happen. There comes a point on the spiritual path where effort becomes surrender and seeking becomes seeing. You begin to realize that you do not need to chase answers. You need only to become quiet enough to hear them. They are already within you. The wisdom, the peace, the clarity, it's not outside, waiting in some future version of your life. It is here, in this breath, in this now. And the only thing keeping you from it is the noise of resistance. Let it go. Let go of the timelines that pressure you. Let go of the expectations that confine you. Let go of the need to be more than what you already are. You are not here to prove your divinity. You are here to embody it. To walk into a room with a soft presence that shifts the air not by force but by frequency. To move through this world with a quiet knowing that says, I am not my story, I am not my fear, I am not my past, I am presence, I am love, I am light. You don't have to shout that truth. You don't even have to say it. You simply have to be it. And being it means trusting that the frequency you carry is the frequency that leads when you walk as wholeness. Life mirrors wholeness. When you rest in gratitude, the universe opens new pathways. When you drop into stillness, clarity emerges without effort. You begin to see life not as something to control, but something to collaborate with. You begin to sense that everything is unfolding exactly as it should, not always in the way the mind wants, but in the way the soul needs. And in that surrender, your frequency stabilizes. It no longer jumps with circumstance. It no longer reacts to every trigger. It no longer depends on validation or control or certainty. It becomes steady, grounded, unshakable. And from that space, miracles flow. Not because you forced them, but because you became them. Because miracles are not events, they are frequencies. And you, beloved, are the tuning fork. You are the transmitter. You are the divine channel through which life expresses itself in form. So live like it, think like it, love like it, speak like it, walk like it, breathe like it. The universe is not waiting to bless you. It is waiting to recognize itself in you, to feel the signal of presence radiating from your being, to align with your soul's signature, not your ego's plan. You don't need more effort. You need more presence, more peace, more inner clarity, more moments of silence where you remember, I am already what I seek. This is the ultimate shift. From becoming to being, from doing to radiating, from striving to surrender. And in that surrender, life unfolds with grace. You'll find yourself in the right place at the right time, not because you manipulated the map, but because you matched the vibration of alignment. You'll be met by the right people, not because you chased them, but because you became a match for the energy they carry. You'll manifest beauty, not as a trick of manifestation techniques, but as a natural extension of the frequency of wholeness within you. Because energy doesn't lie. And you, when you remember your light, are the most powerful force in creation. Not powerful in the way of the world. Powerful in the way of peace. In the way of presence. In the way of God. So, slow down. The world may rush, but your soul never does. Presence has no urgency. Truth has no timeline. And love has no conditions. And when you live like that, when you live as if your soul is the leader, the universe has no choice but to respond in harmony. It must, because it is you. You are not separate. You are the wave and the ocean. You are the light and the source of light. You are the breath and the one who breathes. You are the prayer and the answer. The vibration you hold is your real power. Not your resume, not your story, not your plans, your frequency. And when you choose peace, you tune your life to a higher octave of existence, one that doesn't need proof, only presence. One that doesn't chase, only flows. One that doesn't resist, only trusts. Let this be your new way of being. Not something you do once, but something you return to again and again and again until it becomes your resting place, your home, your essence. Let the world do what it does. You hold your frequency. Let others misunderstand. You keep loving anyway. Let the path twist. You stay present anyway. Let time pass. You remain timeless in your trust. Because the universe responds not to your pressure, but to your peace. Not to your control, but to your coherence. Not to your fear, but to your faith. And when you radiate from that place, steady, anchored, aligned life becomes a mirror of your liberation. A mirror of your healing. A mirror of your true self. Awakened, whole, divine. This is the frequency of God. And you, dear soul, are its echo in form. So be still. And know, you are not waiting for the universe to change. The universe is waiting for you to remember who you already are. And it will respond, not because you begged, but because you finally believed. Because the moment you return to your true vibration, the entire cosmos rises to meet you there. In truth, in light, in love, in presence, always and forever. There comes a moment, often quietly, when the soul whispers through the cracks of our pretending. It doesn't scream, it doesn't demand. It simply sighs, a long, tired breath beneath the surface and says, I can't keep performing anymore. And in that sacred breath, life begins. Not the life others have rewarded, not the one that garners applause, but the real one, the one that asks nothing but truth. You were not born to perform. You were not placed here to impress. You came from the divine, not to be decorated by society's ribbons, but to remember the sacredness of your breath, your being, your boundless presence. And yet, we grow up in a theater, not the kind with curtains and stage lights, but one more subtle, more exhausting. The theater of fitting in, the drama of being enough, the act of being who they expect instead of who you are. And the tragedy is, we get good at it. Too good. We learn our roles so well that we forget they are roles. We smile on cue. We nod when we disagree. We speak when silence is the soul's truth. We become who the world will accept and betray the very spirit that made us alive. We lose the joy of simply being. We bury our spontaneity beneath scripts handed down from generations of unconscious survival. But you are not here to survive in someone else's story. You are here to live in your own truth. Not the truth they taught you, not the one you rehearsed to avoid rejection, but the raw, honest, wild truth of your soul. The part of you that doesn't care if they understand it, only wants to be free. And freedom does not arrive with applause. It arrives in surrender. It arrives the moment you say, I no longer need to be liked in order to love myself. How long will you delay your liberation waiting for permission that was never theirs to give? The world cannot validate what it does not understand. And it will never fully understand a soul that has stopped performing. Because a soul that lives, truly lives, is unpredictable, inconvenient, and powerful. It no longer bows to comfort or expectation. It breathes truth, even when it shakes. There is a sacred rebellion in authenticity. It is not loud. It is not angry. It simply refuses to pretend. It walks into rooms and no longer shrinks. It speaks softly, but with the force of eternity behind every word. It smiles, not to please, but because joy overflows. And sometimes it doesn't smile at all, because realness isn't always cheerful. Sometimes it's raw. Sometimes it's tears, but it is always real. And the most spiritual thing you can do is be real. Not perfect, not polished, not put together, just real. You don't have to glow to be divine. You don't have to sparkle to be sacred. You only have to stop abandoning yourself in the name of acceptance, because there is no amount of applause that will fill the void left by your own self-betrayal. That emptiness you feel, that quiet ache, it's your soul knocking on the inside saying, let me out, let me breathe, let me live. And it will keep knocking, not to punish you, but to wake you. Because the truth of who you are has waited long enough behind the mask of who you've performed to be. And the longer you wear the mask, the heavier it becomes. At first, you think it protects you. But eventually, you find it is the very thing suffocating your aliveness. Your life is not a stage. It is a sacred unfolding. And you, dear soul, are not a performer. You are the presence, the light itself, the being behind the act, the witness beneath the mask. You are not what you show. You are what you are when there's no one to show it to. And that self, the one behind the scenes, that is where God lives. That is where peace breathes. That is where freedom begins. Let go of the script. Burn it, if you must. Every line you memorized to be worthy, release it. Every costume you wore to be accepted, shed it. Every scene you reenacted to be safe, step out of it. The stage is not your home. The truth is, and truth does not need lighting or lines or validation. It only needs your permission. And that permission is the most holy act of love you will ever offer yourself. Because the moment you say, I will not perform today, is the moment you return to your center. To the stillness that does not need proof. To the silence that does not need volume. To the self that does not need applause. You return to being. And in being, you remember that all your striving was never necessary because you were already whole. You've spent a lifetime trying to earn a seat at a table you were born to build. You've twisted your light to fit into shadows that never deserved you. And now, the invitation is clear, not to hustle harder, not to prove yourself louder, but to come home. Come home to the self that doesn't audition. Come home to the you that was never a role, never a projection, never a mirror of someone else's need. The you that simply is. And when you arrive there, when you sit quietly inside your own presence without performing, you will feel a sacred unfamiliarity. Not because it is foreign, but because it has been so long forgotten. It is like walking into a childhood home after years away. Everything looks smaller, quieter, simpler, and yet every corner is laced with memory. Every silence pulses with recognition. You realize you didn't need to reinvent yourself. You only needed to stop abandoning what was already true. The universe does not ask you to be impressive. It asks you to be aligned. Life does not reward the pretender. It responds to the authentic. And the authentic does not push it, allows. It does not strive. It flows. When you stop performing, you stop chasing. And when you stop chasing, you start receiving. You begin to experience life not as something to conquer, but as something to receive with reverence and grace. Because life is not a competition. It is a communion, a sacred relationship with the now. And the now is uninterested in who you're trying to be. It wants the real you, the unguarded, unscripted, unmasked presence that breathes without needing to impress, the version of you that would speak the truth even if your voice trembled, the one who laughs without needing an audience, who cries without needing permission, who shows up as they are, not as they're supposed to be. You are not a curated image. You are not a walking resume. You are not a list of achievements or failures or opinions dressed in emotional makeup. You are a living essence, untamed and untouchable, before they told you to sit still and look good, before they taught you to smile even when it hurt, before they convinced you that being you wasn't enough. And every time you remember that, something divine opens within you. You begin to sense it in small moments, the sacredness of not pretending. When you say no without justifying it, when you wear silence like a prayer instead of filling it with explanations, when you walk away not to punish but to protect your peace, when you let people misunderstand you, because truth no longer needs translation. These moments, though quiet, are revolutions, tiny awakenings that whisper, you are finally living, and you are. Because living is not surviving performance after performance. Living is being in such harmony with your own soul that your external life becomes a mirror, not a mask. You stop asking the world what to do next. You start asking your inner being what feels right. And the answers no longer come from noise. They rise like waves from the still ocean within. Can you feel it? That quiet, that truth, that presence within you, it's always been there. Waiting beneath the applause, beneath the fear, beneath the hunger to be seen. It is the part of you that never left. The part that watches without judgment. The part that has no need to perform because it is already one with God. And what is God if not the infinite permission to be as you are? To speak from the soul, to move from the heart, to show up without disguise? God doesn't ask you to act worthy. God asks you to remember. You already are. In every breath, in every moment, in every still point of your existence. Worthiness is not something to be proven. It is something to be remembered and lived from. So stop rehearsing. Stop waiting for the perfect timing. Stop shrinking your truth to fit into someone else's idea of success. You are not here to be palatable. You are here to be powerful. Not power in dominance, but power in authenticity. The kind of power that radiates not from effort, but from presence. The power of someone who no longer needs the room to agree before speaking truth, who no longer performs love to feel loved, who no longer betrays themselves to feel safe. Safety is not in agreement. It is in alignment. And alignment comes when you are finally done negotiating your identity for the illusion of belonging. When you realize that peace does not arrive when everyone approves of you, it arrives when you approve of yourself. And that approval comes when you stop editing your soul to meet someone else's expectations. You are not here to entertain. You are here to embody. Embody truth, embody love, embody the deep silence that exists beyond the clamor of opinion. And in that embodiment, you find the paradox. You become more magnetic, more alive, more radiant than any performance could have ever offered. Because people are not moved by perfection. They are moved by presence. There is a kind of holiness in being misunderstood. When you no longer contort your truth to fit into someone else's comprehension, when you say what you feel, not to provoke, not to defend, but simply because silence would be a betrayal of the soul. In this sacred place, you no longer trade your authenticity for approval. You no longer dim your light so others can stay comfortable in the dark. You understand now that not everyone is meant to witness your becoming because some only knew how to applaud your pretending. The deeper you go into truth, the more you shed. Not just masks, but roles, attachments, even identities you once clung to as life rafts. And what you discover beneath it all is this startling simplicity. You never needed any of it. You were never lacking. You were only layered. layered with expectations that weren't yours, burdened with shoulds that never belonged, carrying stories that had nothing to do with your spirit. And in that shedding, you do not become something new. You become what you were before the world told you who to be. This is not an escape. This is a return, a sacred homecoming to the quiet center of your being, the part that does not push, does not seek, does not grasp, the part that watches, that breathes, that knows. Here, there are no performances, only presence, no masks, only essence. And essence is not something you show, it is something you allow. It moves through you, not from effort, but from surrender. And oh, how miraculous surrender becomes when you realize it is not defeat, it is freedom. To surrender is not to give up, it is to give in to the deeper truth of what wants to move through you. To stop performing is to surrender the need to control how others see you. It is to let go of being seen and begin to see clearly, without filters, without stories, without needing the world to reflect back what you already know within. This is the birth of peace, not the peace that comes from a quiet room, but the peace that stays even when the room erupts in chaos. It is the peace of one who is no longer playing roles, but living truth. The peace of someone who no longer rushes to fill silences because they no longer fear being real. The peace of one who can say with softness and power, I am no longer performing, I am simply being. And in that being, something divine unfolds, the way a flower opens not by effort, but by light, the way a river flows not by direction, but by surrender. You begin to live in harmony with the unseen rhythm of your own soul. And that rhythm is not frantic, it is not loud, it is not designed to entertain. It is slow, steady, sacred, like breath, like prayer, like the turning of stars. People may not understand your stillness. Let them not understand. People may not like your honesty. Let them not like it. Because you did not come here to manage their feelings. You came here to liberate your soul. You came here to live with the kind of aliveness that doesn't fit into a neat little box. And sometimes that aliveness looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like tears. Sometimes it looks like dancing with no music or walking away with no explanation. And you begin to see performing was never safety. It was imprisonment. Polished words were not love, they were protection. Sacrificing your truth was not noble. It was self-abandonment. And now you choose something higher. Now you choose presence over performance, truth over safety, wholeness over approval. And in doing so, you awaken something ancient within you, the knowing that says, this is who I've always been, I just forgot. You forgot because the world rewards forgetfulness. It applauds the performance. It sells the mask. But now you remember, and that remembrance is the beginning of everything. You remember that you are not what you do. You are not what they see. You are not even who they love. You are the awareness that watches it all, the presence that animates it all, the silence beneath the sound. And in remembering this, you stop reaching. You stop rushing. You rest instead in your own being. You speak less. You listen more. You show up not as a brand, not as a personality, but as presence itself. You stop editing your laughter. You stop apologizing for your boundaries. You stop tiptoeing around your own needs. Because finally, you understand. Living is not about being agreeable, it's about being aligned. And alignment is not always convenient, but it is always holy. When you stop performing, your relationships change. Some drift. Let them drift. Some deepen. Let them deepen. Because only truth can nurture connection. Performance creates fans. Presence creates soulmates. And you're not here to be famous. You're here to be free. Free to love without fear. Free to speak without rehearsal. Free to live not in reaction, but in creation. Not as an actor in someone else's story, but as the sacred author of your own. The soul does not scream, it whispers. And it has been whispering all along. Stop pretending. Stop adjusting. Stop performing. Start living. That whisper, that ancient breath is the voice of God within you. It is not demanding. It is not condemning. It simply invites. And that invitation, once accepted, changes everything. Because when the soul leads, performance ends, and life, real life, begins. There is something sacred about a life unhurried. A life no longer racing towards some imagined arrival point, no longer grasping for approval like oxygen, no longer tied to the ticking of external clocks. You begin to feel the difference between urgency and purpose. Urgency screams, demands, contracts. Purpose whispers, invites, expands. And when you are no longer performing, you begin to hear that whisper again, soft as breath, strong as eternity, guiding you back to the rhythm of your own becoming. You no longer ask, how should I be? You ask, what is true now? You no longer calculate your words. You no longer strategize your identity. You no longer rehearse your life like a play you hope ends in applause. You show up as you are, moment to moment, breath to breath. And in that simplicity, the miraculous happens. The universe starts responding to your truth instead of your performance. Doors open that striving never touched. People appear who speak to your soul, not your persona. Paths unfold that don't require force, only presence. Because life meets you where you are honest. Not where you're impressive, not where you're polished, where you are real. And being real is a daily act of courage. To show up unmasked in a world addicted to illusions, this is the quiet revolution. This is what spiritual mastery truly is. Not floating above the world, but walking through it with such radical truth that even your silence sets people free. And you will notice that this lightness that emerges when you're no longer weighed down by performance. You laugh more deeply. You breathe more fully. You cry without shame. You no longer measure your worth in outcomes. You measure it in presence. You feel the sacred in the mundane. You find joy in the ordinary. A walk becomes meditation. A glance becomes prayer. A meal becomes communion. Because nothing is filtered through performance anymore. It is experienced directly, naked, alive. And this aliveness is your true nature. It was never gone. Just buried beneath layers of conditioning, beneath the noise of a world that told you to always do more, be more, prove more. But now you see you don't have to prove light. You are the light. Not the kind that blinds, the kind that warms, the kind that draws others in, not with intensity, but with peace. And when peace becomes your baseline, everything changes. You don't chase love, you become it. You don't beg for belonging. You belong to yourself. You don't force outcomes. You trust timing. You don't hustle for happiness. You embody joy. And all of this sacred shift begins when you stop performing. When you realize that your truth is not too much, that your feelings are not inconvenient, that your presence is not a problem to be managed, it's a miracle to be honored. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop contorting to avoid conflict. You simply breathe fully, deeply, knowing that your aliveness is a gift, not a negotiation. And those who can meet you here, as you are, will stay, not out of obligation, but out of resonance. Because truth is magnetic, not loud, not pushy, just undeniable. and you begin to extend this grace inward to the parts of yourself that once felt unworthy. The tired parts, the angry parts, the scared parts that once wore masks just to survive. You gather them now gently, like lost children, and you say, you don't have to pretend anymore, you're safe here. I'm not abandoning you again for someone else's comfort. And just like that, healing begins. Not through effort, through embrace. Not through performance, through presence. Not through fixing, through remembering, because you were never broken. You were just acting, playing a part that never suited your soul. And now the curtain falls, not with despair, but with liberation. The lights dim, not with shame, but with surrender. And what remains when the stage is gone, when the script is forgotten, when the applause fades, is you, real, whole, enough. There is a holiness to this return, a quiet sacredness that does not need ceremony. Just stillness, just breath, just you sitting in your own presence, knowing there is nothing else to become. Only something deeper to be and to remember being. And so, we move onward gently, courageously, without armor. We move onward not to finish something, but to sink even deeper into the vast, silent truth that there is nothing left to chase, only more of yourself to allow. You are no longer climbing towards some ideal self. You are descending into the sacred ground of the self that always was. This is not ascent, this is embodiment. You start to see that everything you once feared, losing reputation, recognition, reputation, even relationships, was never the source of your life. They were the echoes of your performance, not the essence of your soul. And now, having shed the act, you can finally stand in the radiant stillness of your own being and say, even if I lose what is not real, I gain what is eternal. You lose the performance. You gain the peace, you lose the illusion, you gain the intimacy, you lose the approval, you gain the self. It is here, in this space, that your healing becomes visible, not dramatic, not theatrical, just present. You begin to walk differently, not faster, not with more purpose, but with softness, with rootedness, as though each step is a conversation with the earth. You speak with less urgency because you're no longer trying to convince. You listen with more reverence because every voice, including your own, holds a piece of the divine. The ego begins to dissolve, not because it was evil, but because it's tired. Tired of the performance, tired of pretending to be in control. Tired of trying to earn what the soul already knows is unconditional, and in its place, there is a return to humility, the kind of humility that isn't small or timid, but vast and grounded. The humility of knowing you are both dust and divinity, that you are not here to impress God, but to express God. And that expression needs no polish, only permission. You no longer seek to be seen because you finally see yourself. You no longer seek to be understood because you have made peace with your own paradoxes. You no longer perform gratitude. You become it. Every moment, every breath becomes a silent thank you. Thank you for the freedom of not pretending. Thank you for the courage to be real. Thank you for the pain that cracked the shell of performance and let the truth shine through. And it will shine. Not like a spotlight, but like the slow golden light of sunrise, steady, healing, and beyond effort. You won't have to announce it. Your peace will speak. You won't have to explain it. Your energy will explain it for you. And not everyone will understand this new you, the unfiltered, unperformed, unguarded you. Some will miss the old script. Some will mourn the version of you they could control. Let them. Let them walk their path while you walk yours in truth, in presence, in love. Because now you choose truth even when it's inconvenient. You choose rest, even when it's unpopular. You choose depth, even when the world celebrates surface. You choose soul, even when the ego protests. You choose the long path home instead of the short path to approval. And every time you choose these things, you say yes to life. Real life. Not life as performance, but life as presence. Life as breath. Life as God flowing through you, unfiltered, unedited, unhindered. And you will have moments of doubt. Of course you will. You will feel the pull to slip back into the act, especially when the silence feels too wide, too vulnerable, too unfamiliar. But you will remember, this silence is not emptiness. It is fullness. It is the sound of the soul uncloaked. The sound of God when we finally stop talking over Him. And in that silence, you will be comforted. Not by the noise of validation, but by the stillness of knowing. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to understand yourself. You are not here to be consumed by the crowd. You are here to commune with the truth. And you are not here to perform for love. You are here to realize that you are love. And love does not need a role to be radiant. It only needs to be released. So now you live like this, undressed of performance, uncloaked of roles. You wake with no need to prove. You walk without explanation. You speak without fear. And your life becomes a meditation. Not an escape from reality, but a deeper entrance into it. Your very presence becomes prayer. Your being becomes medicine. And without doing anything grand, you start to heal the world simply by no longer pretending. You see now, don't you? You were never too much. You were just too honest for a world that profits from performance. You were never too sensitive. You simply refused to numb what was still alive in you. You were never wrong for wanting to rest, to breathe, to be held without expectation. What the world called weakness was simply your soul choosing presence over pretending. And that presence, your presence, is now no longer something you slip into when the world isn't watching. It becomes your way of life, your baseline, your foundation. You no longer move through the world as a character, but as consciousness itself. No longer shrinking, no longer embellishing, just being fully. Freely. And in that being, you begin to attract not performances, but presence. Not fans, but soul family. Not transactions, but transformations. The world may never applaud your authenticity the way it claps for your performance, but your soul will. And in the quietest moments when you sit alone and breathe without needing to impress anyone, you will feel it. Peace. A kind of peace that is not earned through effort, but allowed through surrender. It wraps around you like warm light. It holds you like the arms of God. It says, without words, this is who you are. This is enough. You become the safe place you were always seeking. The refuge that doesn't require explanation. The home that welcomes every part of you, the loud, the silent, the strong, the tender. You become whole, not because you finally met the world's expectations, but because you stopped abandoning your own essence. You look back on the years of performing not with judgment, but with deep compassion. You see the younger you trying to be liked, trying to belong, trying to not disappoint. And you hold that version close, not to keep it alive, but to let it rest. To say, you did your best, but you don't have to keep pretending. We're safe now. We're free. And then you exhale deeply, fully, like someone who has carried a weight for so long they forgot they were even holding it. That exhale, that sacred breath becomes your liberation. No fanfare, no stage lights, just stillness and truth and love. You understand now, you are not here to perform life. You are here to live it. Not to become a character in someone else's story, but to walk boldly in your own. Not to repeat the script you were given, but to write your own pages in ink made of presence You are here to love, not to entertain, to create, not to conform, to heal, not to hustle. You are not here to fit. You are here to expand. You stop asking, who do they want me to be? And start asking, who am I when I'm not performing? And the answer comes not in grand revelations, but in soft moments, in the way your shoulders drop when you don't have to explain, in the way your eyes soften when you see yourself with love, in the way you stand rooted and relaxed when you no longer need to impress. That is where life begins. Not on the stage, but off it. Not when the crowd cheers, but when the soul sighs. Not in applause, but in alignment. Life begins when you stop performing and start living fully, courageously, divinely. And so I leave you here. Not with a conclusion, but with a return. Back to your center, back to your breath, back to the presence that was never gone, only hidden beneath the roles. The performance is over. The truth remains. Live it. Live it boldly. Live it quietly. Live it fully. But above all, live it as you.